Autism stems from differences in biology that have an influence on brain development. Autism is a lifelong condition. That doesn't mean that children can't make significant improvements in their language.
This week on the Bedroom Talk Show,
They can, just like all children. But children don't just grow out of it.
we're discussing and bringing more awareness to being an autism advocate.
I want to thank you, son.
With your host, you already know, and autism advocate herself, Crystal Jordan. And this week's special guest is Marcus Boyd, who's also autistic and an advocate. Stay tuned.
Can't talk, but you feel my love. Me and your mommy always making you happy with kisses, hugs. They say you different because you hear what we say, just can't repeat it like a secret. It could have been worse, at least you breathe. It's like I'm dreaming, but I can't wake from this nightmare. I wipe tears. They said my son can't talk, how his life fared. I was dead. You was mimicking words and making sounds. Now you frown, feeling misunderstood. Jumped on the ground, feeling down. You a whole different child. I'm like, what happened? Feel like snapping. You a soul full of life. Why people laughing? Keep on dancing, son. I got your back when it's said and done. I feel your spirit. I'll be right by your side while they making fun. Thank you, son. You teaching me patient, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special. I call you gifted. Won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost. The doctor said you're autistic. Listen, I'm thankful for God and all his blessings. As a parent, I think about life from my son's perspective. I want to know, when they stare in your face, do you feel afraid? I'm not ashamed. Many might call you strange, just how they made. I want to know, do you know I'm your dad? Do you feel neglected on holidays? Do you feel any joy when you open presents? I want to know, do you get bullied from other kids? If I die, where would you go? Where would you live? I want to know. Will you survive if things change? I want to know. When I'm not around, could you maintain? You nonverbal. How would I know if you feeling strange? When you cry, I want to know.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your host, Crystal J. And you already know, if you've been following my platform for a minute, you would know I am an autism advocate. And when I tell you guys, I love when I can talk to someone who's actually on the spectrum, living on the spectrum, and they're adult, and I can get their point of view on what I'm doing in the autism community. It makes my day. So let's get to this interview. Today, I have Marcus Voigt, and he's an autism advocate, and he's autistic. Like, let's get into it. He has Grammys, he got music. Like, he was nonverbal, now he talks. Like, the hope for me is theirs through him. So I'm gonna let you tell us your story.
Well, first of all, I'm just honored to be on your amazing platform. Congratulations on your books, the sales, your shirts, your TikToks, everything that you're doing to show autism, to show your amazing son, to show the movement and the awareness. So I definitely take my hat off to the legend. As far as my story, I was born with autism. I didn't start talking until I was 13 and a half years old at a 2-year-old's level. Many doctors, like 11, 12 of them, said the left side of my brain doesn't function correctly. So I would need a caregiver. I won't feed myself, clothe myself, bathe myself. If any education, it would be little based off the brain functionality that I was displaying at the time. I got diagnosed with autism April 12, 1993. I was 10 years old. Clifton Springs Mental Health Center in the state of Georgia. My therapist, Berta Lupus, Dr. King. I had a behavior aide, Bob Ortner. Anna Gibbs, my speech therapist. Dorothy Carr was my social worker. Deborah White was her supervisor. Mary King was another person I worked with. It was a team of people. But my situation was not like, okay, so here's your diagnosis. So here's the plan or plan of action and stuff like that to help you. Nope, I was in 16 to 17 mental institutions, 4 inpatient, 17 foster homes, 16 group homes. Nobody really tried to help me out with my being nonverbal except my grandmother and my sisters. It was really a roller coaster because I didn't know I was going to write, function. I didn't start talking like this until I was almost 18 years old. So you can imagine me trying to do music, me trying to learn, me trying to communicate, me trying to have friends. It didn't happen for me like that. And then growing up in a city that was changing, between Atlanta, Georgia, and Brooklyn, New York, those cities were changing at the time. So a lot of stuff was going on for the cities. and I couldn't even keep up.
I want to say number one, I wanted to make sure my viewers understood when we using terms. I wanted to understand what we're talking about. So throughout the episode, you guys look at the bottom of the screen. You will see the definitions of autism, which is nonverbal. When I first you introduced yourself to me, and I talked to your team, I was like, okay. And when you told me that you was actually nonverbal until was it 13 or 16? I can't hear you.
It was 13. Sorry, it was 13.
So when you told me you was nonverbal till you was 13, I thought it gave me hope because my son is non-vocal. I use the term non-vocal, which I'm gonna put the definition right here. Um, and I was like, okay, that is amazing. You're the second person I met that's on the spectrum that is who was nonverbal or non-vocal, who is now an adult and talking. So I thought that was very dope and very amazing to see how you overcame something that a lot of people felt like you probably was never going to talk and stuff like that. So my question is, you being on the spectrum, like, what are some things that you're trying to change within the system for, I want us to be honest, for Black people? Because most of the time we are misdiagnosed. Most of the time we don't even know what autism look like. Most of the time we're misdiagnosed with behavior problems. And it's unfortunate that you was diagnosed so late at 10, but I think it comes from our community not being educated or knowing the symptoms or signs of autism. And before my son was diagnosed, he was diagnosed at 2, but I said I scraped he has autism. Can I get him tested? And that was at 2. But without me knowing the signs, do you think he would be tested for autism now? Or was diagnosed with
No,
autism now?
I
You
just
said
honestly
no.
think that what I'm trying to work on is the way people see and how they operate dealing with autism. The activities and programs
Right.
that we can do to make it better for people or individuals or families with autism, because that's what I'm working on. I'm working on bringing more money, bringing more awareness, and bringing more time and programs and activities for individuals and families with autism. That's the reason why, one of the reasons why I advocate,
Mhm.
or I'm an activist. Um, my grandma comes from this old Baptist church in Atlanta. So let's put some holy oil on the demon before we call it anything else.
Mhm.
So yeah, it took that. And even with my diagnosis, it still took the devil is alive. And we can pray this out of him. And there's nothing wrong that God can't fix. And
That's our culture though. But that's our culture. And I went against the culture because I'm not gonna say who said it, but somebody else in my family said, we gonna pray about it. Pray about what? I'm gonna get him diagnosed, I'm gonna get him tested, then you can still pray for him. But it's nothing. One thing I don't like is people be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry about what? My child is awesome. Like, I'm sorry you don't understand what autism is. I'm sorry you haven't took the time to actually educate yourself and learn that people on it's so many people that are making millions, billions who have autism. The owner of Tesla have autism. Pokemon, autism. Steve Jobs, speculation, not sure, autism. But my point is, it's nothing wrong with people who have autism. I feel like the world needs to learn to accept people who are more on the spectrum versus shun them and not understand them. And I really feel like to this topic is because number one, a lot of us don't know. A lot of us are in denial. You know how many parents I talk to that are in denial and they want me to talk to the other parent, and I'm like, I don't understand how they in denial. How you don't want your child to do better? How you don't want your child to get these services? It's so many free resources out there, but it's unfortunate that the free resources are not in the Black community. I have yet all everything I do for my son, I have to go outside of the main part of Atlanta. I have to go far to for him to get these resources. And I don't mind driving, but it's because the lack of what we have in our communities. And somebody said, I love the awareness you bring to the Black community. If it wasn't If it wasn't for your platform, I wouldn't. I would be uneducated about it. Yes, I feel. Thank you. I feel that us as Black people sometimes we have to take a step back to learn a little bit more, and not even just awareness. I want people to be accepting to autism too. That's one of my things, being accepting. But Marcus, tell me more about your mission and the things you are doing. I know you're coming out with a comic book about autism. I'm super excited. I can't wait to buy it. I know it's a Black character. So tell me about it.
Yeah, we coming out with Super Marcus, the comic book. We coming out with Book Feast, the book series. We coming out with Marcus, the hero inside the book, the comic strip. There's a short movie that's being done about my life. It's called Boy with No Voice. They start filming in August in Atlanta. Um, then we're working on the biography book, Autism Career Day for next year. It's a lot going on, but what I do is go to schools, festivals, events. I go, have Zoom meetings in London and Dubai and different places where I try to teach people about firsthand having autism. See, it's different when you're a parent versus you actually having autism. I tell people all the time that the first greatest medicine and the greatest gift that you can give your child is compassion, understanding, patience, and love. That is the best gift you can give any individual child with autism. Had I had that as a child, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. My life would have probably been totally different. But any parent with autism, it's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to be sad. But pick your sadness up. Don't stay in that place. Don't stay in the place of waddling about the diagnosis. Start figuring it out and start pushing towards the greatness in your child. Because your child could be the next president. Your child could be the next doctor, a lawyer, real estate agent. We cannot focus on the diagnosis because as my grandma would have said in 1993, well, we just going to keep them in a mental institution. We just going to keep them tied up and separated, isolated. It wouldn't be 13 music awards. It wouldn't have been 7 Grammy nominations. None of this stuff would have happened if my grandma didn't say no. I don't believe it.
I love that. And you know what I always say in every interview I do? Autism is one word, 1 million different stories, but you have to realize you are more than your diagnosis. Yes, you got that diagnosis, but you are more than that. Now, how are we going to address things? How are we going to learn to move more differently with this diagnosis? How are we going to shape the way we do things? What's the sensory overload? So these are questions that I wish more parents would ask, and I agree. Patience is a big thing, and being more understanding and loving. I hug my son all the time because I want my son to know how much I love him. I always say, love doesn't need words. Love doesn't need words. So my question for you: when you was nonverbal, how how did you communicate as a kid? That's my first question, and I'm gonna get into my second question in a minute.
Okay, well, the first question was my sisters believed in sticky notes, hooked on phonics, Muzzy, Curious George, Big Red Dog. I think I read the Big White Bible with scriptures. I mean, they put sticky notes on everything. I don't care if I stuttered, slobbed, if I didn't, I stormed out. They would grab me by my shirt. They didn't. This was an everyday, all day process. They didn't care. They sometimes used to meet me on the bus, drag me off the bus and start making me sound out words. Even with my speech therapist, Anna Gibbs, they used to show up at my therapy sessions with my speech therapist and be like, look, this is what we teaching him today. Either you with it or you not. I think my sisters were so before their time. And even now at almost 40, they still so beyond their time. Contracts, business meetings, whatever. My PR, my booking agent, they know my sister. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. So pretty much you had a PEC system, a picture and chain. Did you do more of a picture and chain system? Um, yeah, that's pretty much what it sounds like, right? Is
Yeah,
that
it
what
was
you did?
like more visual pictures and eat cat,
PECs.
hat, stat, mat,
Okay.
stat.
All right.
That the
So they made you sound the words out. I haven't got there with my child. He does it for his ABA therapist, but not for me. I try, but I don't know. I pray on it, and his
See,
speech
that's
therapist is
another
doing
thing.
good.
The ABA, they didn't. Again, I'm 38. They didn't really have the titles ABA therapy. It was just Berta Luper at the Christian Springs Mental Health Center. That was my therapy. She had like 40 other cases. She had 40 other kids she was dealing with at that time. I didn't BCA or BAC. The lettering. It
I
wasn't
know, I know what you're saying. You talking about the BCBA,
right. It wasn't so much of importance in the
right?
early 90s, late 80s. It wasn't like, okay, so we were going to take you to your ABA therapy. No, we were just taking you to therapy. And we was hoping and praying, you know, I mean, around that time, everything was, again, I'm from old Atlanta. I'm,
I'm from old
I'm,
Atlanta too, so everything was different back then. I understand what you're saying. Everything was pretty much different back then. So you being nonverbal, how did you know that your mom or your family? How did you know that they loved you because you was nonverbal? How could you tell?
if we going to be honest, I didn't. I just knew my sisters loved me because they always hugged me. And my sisters always said, you can do it. Don't worry about it. No, we'll go back to it. Take a break. You know, it was my sisters. I always, in every interview, I always credit my sisters and my grandmother. Unfortunately, I didn't have mom and dad. My Big Tommy was very abusive. And as people will see in the movie, in the short film that's coming out in September, he was very abusive. And if I had a dad that was grab my hand and say, "Come on, son, you can do it," I might. I don't know where would I be at this point.
So it sounds like your mom, I mean your grandma, sorry, and your sisters was pretty much your advocates for you growing up, making sure you got what you needed. And I love to hear stories like yours because number one, we have to show love to our kids that's on the spectrum, and that's one of my fears. I want to make sure that my son know I love him. So like I told you in the interview, I stay hugging him all the time. I hug him every day. Even when I read to him at night, I make sure I hug him because I want to make sure that I'm giving him that nonverbal communication without me have to say it because he can't communicate. So I make sure I do it to him as well. I wonder if anybody have any questions that are watching. You have any questions for us? Let me know. But let's get back to your movie. I'm super excited about your short film. When is it dropping? Where can we watch it? Are you going to be able to educate us on what autism is for people that are new to the platform, people who are very uneducated? So let's get into that question.
Tina Bridges, shout out to her. Tina Bridges, she's an award-winning film director with TLA agency out there in Atlanta. So she's going to be shooting the film with a bunch of incredible actors and actresses. And they start shooting in August. It should be done in September. They'll be able to go everywhere and find it on every social media platform. And yes, education about autism is going to be in the film. We don't want to just focus on how Marcus grew up. We want to be able to focus on the education of autism so people can have more of a knowledge and get wisdom from this. And to be able to see that if this individual can go from A to Z, then your child can go from A to Z. The biggest limitation that parents put on their children is themselves. You cannot put limitations on greatness because we don't ever know when it will come. For me, it took almost 20 years. It almost took 20 years, but God allowed it to come. So with your child, it may come in 2 years or it may come in 1 year. We don't have the time limit for greatness, but keep pushing towards the greatness because that's when
Wow.
you allow your butterfly to bloom.
Let me okay. Stop interview. I love what you just said. Sometimes I have met parents like that. They put I love what you said. Number one, that's where a lot of parents go wrong. We try to they're in their feelings because their child have autism, not realizing they have something so special in front of them, and they're not trying to understand that child because they already created this whole life that they trying to live through their child. That is a fact. I agree with that. It was something else you said. I can't wait to see the movie with the actors and when it's shot in Atlanta. I can't wait to promote it. When you educate about autism in the film, my question is, are you going to be able to drop resources as well? Because that's a big thing in the community. A lot of people don't know where to get free pull-ups. They can go on free cruises. People don't know that. People don't know the information. So, how are you going to put the
We are going
resources
to have
out there
resources
in the
in
movie
this
as well?
film. We are going to have resources in the film so people can go to their local resources in the state of Georgia, but not just in the state of Georgia, because we want resources everywhere. See, we have to understand that these resources are connections, and you have to go out there and get them. And the thing is a lot of them. There's a lot of cities and states that don't have the proper resources. So that's why I'm working hard for it, to
No.
be able to change stuff like Medicaid, be able to change stuff like therapy pricing, be able to change stuff like allowing single mothers or single fathers or families with low income to be able to take part in these services because their children deserve these type of services. So again, I've been an activist for almost 5 years, and it would
I
take
love
my
it.
lifetime. It would take my lifetime to do this. And again, when I see people like
Mhm.
you, Rhonda, the other Crystal, and so many other people that's using their voice skills and gifts to be able to push the envelope of autism. Because in regardless of how you look at it, everybody is pushing the envelope to make change in the autism community. So again, I
Facts.
applaud you and everybody else because y'all are legends to me. Y'all are superheroes to me. Y'all are my inspiration.
Oh,
So
thank you.
continue to be amazing parents because one day your child will be better than me. See, my grandmother said no. It's like when Ronald Reagan's wife said say no to
Mhm.
drugs. My grandma said no to a diagnosis. He will be better than a diagnosis. And when she
Facts.
passed when I was 24, she held my hand and she said, "Don't let your disability make room at anybody else's dinner table. Allow your greatness to show." I'll be watching.
Thank you. I love it. It said yes, being accepted is a major thing. I love hearing your story gives hope. Yes, Trinice, his story gives hope. Um, I love that you were trying to get the Medicaid thing done. That's very important. Um, let's not talk about the states that don't even provide, they're not even autism friendly for people who have autism in those states. It is disgusting. We ain't gonna get started on that because I can go for hours. But I love that you are actually trying to, not trying, you're doing. I have to correct myself. I love that you're doing things for the autism community to make changes, especially within the Black community. That is extremely important. And I love that. I can't tell you how much I love that. And thank you for looking up to me. But I love hearing from you guys that's on the spectrum. I love talk like you saw me call you asking you questions about how did like I ask questions because I am neurotypical. I'm not autistic. And me being neurotypical and me supporting neurodiversity, I try to understand people who are actually artistic and not try I try to listen to your voice and I try to understand, okay, let's take a step back. Let me make sure that I'm educating people the correct way for I'm not offending the community, but I'm also educating people to come into the community and accept the community. Because it's a community of us. It just people have to learn what autism is and be ready to accept it. Because you can learn about it, that's passive. But when are you going to fully accept people that are different, people that are not the same?
You're right. You're right. And I chose to get in this
Yep.
field because I am this field, and I could be somebody's child. You understand what I'm saying? So, in regardless, if I'm 38 and I still have emotional issues, I still have sensory issues, certain colors I still can't be around. Even though I'm a music producer, certain noises still bother me. I still prefer being in my room by myself versus being in the in crowd. I still have those issues. And it's not like, okay, well, my child is this age, so this is supposed to happen. With autism, there is no track line,
No.
period. I mean, because I was 19, 20 years old, still using the bathroom on myself. And then we talking about trying to like girls and stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. You understand what I'm saying? So I understand it literally. So I see that autism needs a change in direction, the way they look at stuff. We can not always give our time and resources and support to organizations when it's the autism families that's suffering, when it's the autism families that's sacrificing, when they don't have food and they don't have school supplies and stuff like that. That's why I'm building a nonprofit. That's why I'm getting the team together so we can give back to the autism families. Nothing wrong with the organization, but they already have money. The autism families need it.
You brought up something I'm about to hit the nail on. Hey, Crystal, my question is you brought it up, so you walked into it. So I hope you're ready. Do
Mm-hmm.
you being autistic, do you support Autism Speak? And if you do not support Autism Speak, I want you to explain. And do you support Walk Blue? So that's the same organization. So, and do you support the puzzle piece? You walked into that question, and I was just waiting to bring it
Okay.
out. I was
Um,
ready.
Autism Speaks granted me, allowed me to be on their platform, and I'm very grateful. I don't support one organization versus another, which is Autism Speaks ABA, whatever the organization is. I support autism families. I support autism individuals. That's what I support. I support the people that sacrifice Thanksgiving meals to put medicine in their kids' mouth. I support people that sacrifice a light bill to put food and clothes on their autism child's back and in their mouth. That's what I support. And do I support the puzzle piece? Um, I think the puzzle piece represents me, Marcus Leonardo Boyd, personally, because it took almost 38 years to put my pieces of my life together. And I'm still putting my pieces of life together. So, will I use the puzzle piece? I have. Um, will I do I use other designs and graphic work? Yes, I do. That represents autism, hearts, infinity signs, whatever it is. Has my life been threatened multiple times because of the puzzle piece? Yes, it has. Um, I mean, but it's not a design. It's not like a title. It's who I am. So a puzzle piece doesn't represent Marcus. A puzzle piece is only a statement that shows how I'm trying to build my own puzzle. But whether it's a puzzle piece, hearts, stars, I don't care if it was balloons and if they was red, yellow, blue, and green. I'm going to sit up here and represent them balloons just like they was anything else. Because it's not the design, it's who I am from the design.
I love that. So we are got into the puzzle piece. If anybody watching this, so in the autism community, you guys, it's a big debate. Some people support it, some people don't. Some people feel like the puzzle piece is dehumanizing. The puzzle piece does represent them because you're saying something's wrong with me, and that all comes from Autism Speak because a lot of people don't support Autism Speak that are on the spectrum. And I was trying to say a lot. I had to breathe. So that is why I asked that question if you don't know. And sometimes when you see parents use the puzzle pieces, sometimes they're uneducated and they don't know that a lot of people on the spectrum don't use it. See, me, I use both. But if you paid attention to my posts, I literally pulled back from using so many puzzle pieces because I want to respect the community the puzzle piece because I feel that the puzzle piece is positive, is bringing awareness, is bringing acceptance, and then I also believe the puzzle piece is a piece of them. That is the reason why I support the puzzle piece, but I use the affinity symbol because I support neurodiversity. That's the reason why I asked the question. I try to educate people as we do this conversation, you guys. My next question is: do you still STEM? Before you ask that, I know everybody STEM, but do you still STEM?
Um, yes, I still have I still have my STEM moments, and I still have areas that, is always going to be with me. Again, I want people to really understand this. Just because you're 50, 60, 70, whatever your age is, autism is not going nowhere. It's how you deal with the autism. That's the thing. It's how you deal with it and be able to accept it in your life and other people accept it because it's in your life. So
Facts.
so that's the that's the thing. You want to put yourself around people that's God given and that's God brought. You want to be able to understand that yes, just because I have autism, you can have bipolar, lupus, breast cancer. You can be schizophrenic, whatever the label, whatever the diagnosis is. stop looking at that like, oh my God, that's it. Oh, that's it. Like, let's pack up. Let's move to Idaho or some far away place. Let's I don't want my child. Let's homeschool him or her. No, you put and in the word of Mary Boy, God rest her soul. You touch, you put my grandson right back in the same class as the other kids. Don't put him in the 3 to 4 kid class. You put him in the 24 to 28 kid class. He gonna raise his hand just like the other kids gonna raise their hand.
So you support inclusion programs.
I support inclusion because I'm an IEP student. I'm a Ritalin, Paxil, Depakote, Zoloft. I mean, I done had so many pills. It's ridiculous. 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a
So
day.
you still had an IEP and you was in a general ed classroom?
No, they didn't listen to my grandma. They thought my grandma was crazy like I was. So,
Oh, so they that's against the law, but that's
well,
so
back then,
back
when
then
you
we didn't know
swinging,
that. I
right, when you
know.
swinging holy oil everywhere and you singing Jesus with every other sentence
Hmm.
that come out your mouth and stuff, and she's on jumping on tables at principal's offices. So, I mean, they thought she was a little out there.
Yeah, gotcha.
So,
That makes sense. Cause like then a lot we wasn't educating. Like a lot of people don't know IEP is legally binding, and you can amend the IEP when you feel that it's not suiting your child. You can always amend it, and they can't tell you. Well, you just did a review. I don't care. I'm gonna amend it. Yeah. So that's why I asked that question because I was listening. I love what you
well,
said.
no. And I appreciate you asking that question because I didn't come out of the IEP mode until I was 17, 18 years old. I went to Sexton Woods in Chamblee, Tucker. That was a school for strictly people that dealt with mental challenges, or there was, those situations. When I went to Southwest DeKalb High School, I was in a smaller classroom. It was like 4 of us. And back then, they were just going on field trips. Chinese restaurants, Piccadilly's, Ryan's, Golden Corral. I wanted to go to school because I wanted to go to Ryan. You know what I'm saying? So, back then it was $1.50 lunch. I didn't care about having $1.50 because I knew my class and we about to go to that Chinese buffet right over there by the Golden Side on Cascade. You know what I'm saying? So,
Changed since then. I'm happy that that's not this. I'm happy that's not it, because I'm just happy that's not it right now. If you could have seen my face while my computer was freezing, no. So it's something you said. God, it was so much you said. But you know what I don't like what people do when they come to you and be like, autism have a cure. What? I'd be like, what? Autism have a cure. You seen Tony Braxton's son? Yeah. I'm like, he still has autism, baby. What are you talking about? How do you feel when people feel that when you say you have autism, they say, "Oh no, you lying." I know you probably go through it because you're
I
talking.
go through it. I've
I
been
know you
through it.
do.
I go through it. I've been through it for years. And I'm like, the thing is, when you show me the face of autism, when you show me certain relatable, tradable signs that every person with autism is going to have,
Hmm.
irregardless, this ain't a fever. Every person going to wipe their nose and have fever symptoms and cold symptoms. Every person you meet with autism is different from the next person you meet with autism. That's why it's different levels of autism. And just because, and I'm so happy for Tony Braxton's son. God
I am
is
so happy for
amazing.
him. I'm
I
proud of
am.
him.
I'm proud of him.
Me
But
too.
please, parents or anybody else that volunteers for autism get this confused. Your child, your person, your relative will have autism for the rest of their life. The thing is,
Facts.
what makes them to be successful and going to be successful is what you put in their brain. What you show them, that's what they're going to sponge off of.
That
If you
part.
show them success, that's what they're going to become. If you
Yep.
show them failure through your fear, through your actions, through your ignorance, that's exactly what they're going to have when they grow up. So, what you show your children is what they will become.
But I also feel that sometimes people let the diagnosis become And they'd be like, "Oh, my child have autism," and that's their excuse for everything. Oh, your child acting. Oh, that's autism. That's but you haven't took time to understand why your child doing that. Have you sat down with your nonverbal child and said, "Hey, what's wrong?" Like my son may be nonverbal, but I still try to sit down with him and talk to him. I'm talking to you. I'll talk to him the same way. Do I think he understands? Yes. What I don't like is I have met parents, and I used to be this parent. You think because your child is nonverbal or nonvocal, they don't understand. The answer to that question, because I get asked it a lot, is yes, they don't. They understand. They just can't vocalize what they're going through. They just can't tell you. Like how I can tell you, oh my God, you hit me, you hurt my feelings. They can't tell you that. But they understand what you're saying. So if you have a nonverbal, non-vocal child, make sure if you're technically grieving, whatever you want to call it, make sure you're not doing it around that child. But I people kept sending me that post when he got the Howard. I was like, that is good for Tony Braxton's son. I'm happy for him. But this is not autism. This is what his mom and his family put in him to be. So if you're not pushing for your child to be great past that diagnosis, unfortunately, that's not going to be your story. Unfortunately, that ain't going to be your child. But if you're taking time to learn about autism, you're taking time to educate yourself, you're taking time to put your child into these services outside of school, I don't fully support the school system when it comes to services. I'm very blunt about that. I don't fully support it because they overwork and underpaid. So they're not going to put as much work into my child versus the private therapist who going to put in more work. That is my full opinion. I have said it to APS. I will say it again. I called them and said it. I will say it. I will keep saying it. But you have to invest into your child. Yes, and she had extra help. I agree. I told somebody else that. I said she had a nanny and she rich. So how y'all think her son is like I'm not discrediting her as a mom. Like, let me not do that. But she had help. But her son is not the face of autism. He's the face of hope. That's how I look at it. He's the face of hope.
Well, I will say this. When I was nonverbal, and I'm not trying to give the movie or nothing away, but I will say this. When I was nonverbal, I was 4 years old, and I remember Big Tommy when he used to, when I used to try to sit next to him on the couch, or when I used to try to hold on to him, to my dad. So when I tried to hold on to him, and he used to push me off and tell Tina to get this R word boy off of me. Look, he's slobbing on himself. I don't want him around me. I don't. And when he used to mush me out of his way and stuff of that nature. Now again, had I would have had a loving father that didn't do those things, that uplifted me and wanted me with him, even when I was showing differences, then my life would have been different. And again, that's why Big Tommy's where he's at, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because again, sometimes God will allow you to go through the hardest things so you can be a testimony to so many other people.
I want to say, I'm sorry your dad was so ignorant and so naive not to love his child as is and try to understand what this autism. I can't stand the word retarded. It boils me to my soul when I hear, girl, you so retarded. I'm like, what? Huh? Don't use that word around me. Don't I don't ever want to hear that word. And people like, what? I'm like, that word hold too much hurt. And I don't never want my child to feel that he's that word. When you said the R word, I felt that to my core. And for a parent, as in another parent saying that, that's unfortunate. My okay, so since you brought that up, is I know you don't call him your dad. So Big Tommy, is he still alive? Has he tried to fix the problems that he had with you? Have he tried to like just, I want to know if you mind sharing.
He's in. I don't, because I'm overbooked. He's in the state of Georgia Penitentiary. He's doing about 8 to 9 life sentences plus 20 years. He was on Channel 2, 11, and all this other stuff in 2010. They did a real story on him. So I've been giving him money on books and stuff through JPay and stuff of that nature because, God says forgive so we can be forgiven. But here recently last week he sent a message to my brother said that he could have had me killed a long time ago and I owe him that he needs more money on his books. So again, Big Tommy gonna be Big Tommy, whether jail, prison, in person,
So he didn't change. You know what? I believe in God and all that good stuff. If that was me, I would stop putting money in his books because he don't deserve it. We have to set boundaries and know who we allow in our life and what we tolerate in our lives as everyone, not just neurotypical and autistic people, everyone in the world. Like I think he crossed a boundary and I won't put my money on his books, but that's crazy. And like I said, I'm sorry that your dad used the R word. That is unfortunate. I can honestly say I have never used that word towards my child.
Well, no. Big Tommy has done a lot more stuff, but she has to understand.
I can believe it.
I'm not trying to be defensive for him, but this man is trying to raise 22 children in the 80s, 90s. I mean, when he was working at Southern Bell in Atlanta, again, I'm old Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? So when he was working and barely getting no money, you got to bring that money to 22 kids in a small house on Flat Shoals Parkway. You understand what I'm saying? You got to bring that to 22 kids over there at Bankhead Court. And we all wearing hand-me-downs and skipper pews and stuff of that nature. So his frustration was already there. Plus, you have a child that's showing differences. He's not catching footballs. He's not catching basketballs. We can't do the father and son stuff. Because, he's showing that he's not like his other brothers. So we can't show him off at family functions. We want to hide him.
I don't, it's you walked into another question, Marcus. I hope you know that.
Sure.
I hope you know that. You walked into another conversation. I hope you just, what's crazy? I have met moms who friends and family stop inviting them to places because their child have autism. And I'm like, really? I don't go through that. My friends and family still invite Zachariah out to places. Even if it may be overstimulating or it may be something else, he still get invited. So growing up, did you go through that where people didn't invite you to places or your grandma to places because they knew you had autism and they didn't know how to deal with it or they didn't want to deal with it?
I think they invite me because halfway they knew my grandma was crazy and she was TTG for real. She was tap you without talking. So, to talk and put that on with talking about her grandson's differences, that's really gonna make us spark. You understand what I'm saying? So we need to get invited to neighborhood stuff, and we start having stuff on our own. My grandma started feeding kids on the block and stuff like that who couldn't afford to eat. My best friend Tony Rodriguez, his family was Puerto Rican in New York, and they introduced all of us to pork and beans, fish, rice. I mean, they taught us how to stretch a meal, how to stretch rice and beans for 7 days. Now, I don't know if anybody ever did that, but if you can stretch rice and beans for 7 days, you're a miracle worker.
I don't know how y'all can do that. I don't know how you can do that, but hey, I don't have that struggle story. I don't have that one. Don't worry. I don't have that. But you guys, we're about to go to commercial break and we'll be right back and enjoy this music video.
Autism stems from differences in biology that have an influence on brain development. Autism is a lifelong condition. That doesn't mean that children can't make significant improvements in their language and social abilities over time. They can, just like all children. But children don't just grow out of autism.
I want to thank you, son. You teaching me patient, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special. I call you gifted, won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost. The doctor said you're autistic. Dang, I know you can't talk, but you feel my love. Me and your mommy always making you happy with kisses, hugs. They say you different cause you hear what we say, just can't repeat it like a secret. It could have been worse, at least you breathe. It's like I'm dreaming, but I can't wake from this nightmare. I wipe tears, they said my son can't talk, how his life fared. I was dead, you was mimicking words and making sounds. Now you frown, feeling misunderstood, jumped on the ground, feeling down. You a whole different child, I'm like, what happened? Feel like snapping, you was so full of life. Why people laughing? Keep on dancing, son, I got your back when it's said and done. I feel your spirit, I'll be right by your side while they making fun. Thank you, son, you teaching me patient, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special, I call you gifted, won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost, the doctor said you're autistic. Listen, I'm thankful for God and all his blessings. As a parent, I think about life from my son's perspective. I wanna know, when they stare in your face, do you feel afraid? I'm not ashamed, many might call you strange, just how they made. I wanna know, do you know I'm your dad? Do you feel neglected on holidays? Do you feel any joy when you open presents? I wanna know, do you get bullied from other kids? If I die, where would you go? Where would you live? I wanna know. Will you survive if things change? I wanna know. When I'm not around, could you maintain? You nonverbal. How would I know if you feeling strange? When you cry, I wanna know what's wrong to share your pain. You look in space, I wanna know what's on your brain. When you sick, I have to guess the symptoms. It's insane. I give it all just to hear your voice. I really would take everything for my son to enjoy his childhood. Thank you, son. You teaching me patient, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special. I call you gifted. Won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost. The doctor said you're autistic. What's your future? Can the Lord make it straight? He's the ruler. I'm a mess. In times I regret I ain't helped you sooner. Many questions that the mask can't answer. I asked the Reverend. He said pray. I thank God every day. My son a blessing. It's depressing. When you first have a child, you set some goals like playing sports, watching movies together, taking a stroll. This is life. It's the hand I was dealt and I never fold. I love you, son, until we both grow old. More than you know. The stats show in the last 20 years won't suffer from it. You won't care until it happens to yours. Don't make assumptions. It's autism. The word slow and retarded is just disgusting. Have respect. Don't laugh and point when they in public. Try to stomach. You alive but trapped in your own brain. You know the words but they won't come out the same way. Try to fathom. Being told from humans you not the same. You in a maze but your fam keeps saying it's okay. Thank you, son. You teaching me patient, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special. I call you gifted, won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost. The doctor said you're autistic. When I date, unless my mate has a child with autism, it's aggravating cause a kid to keep asking what's wrong with him. It's expensive. Without the proper insurance, it could be hectic. Paying for schools and all the therapy sessions and medicine. Take a second for the parent and family who going through it. I share your pain and all the tears it brought, but we can do it. Be strong. We will succeed when the time gets hard. We will achieve. So please keep going. Good job.
In fact, I believe that people with autism are just as capable, if not more capable, than all of you, born without autism, at being successful and happy in their day-to-day lives.
So, shout out to the artist who gave me full permission to share that. I love that song. When you guys, and he sent it to me, you guys, I was like, preach. I live there. If you look at the bottom of the video, it had facts, and I hope you guys took time to read it and listen to the song. And I think it's a beautiful song because he's talking about how his son has autism. He's autistic and he's non-vocal. But I use the term non-vocal, so y'all should know. But Marcus, how do you feel about that song? How do you feel seeing that is more Black people out here more than ever advocating for people like you, for our kids and just adults and everybody on the spectrum? How do you feel seeing something as powerful as that song?
I think he's doing legacy work, and I've seen it on Facebook, and I'm going to reach out to him. And I would love for him to, when I have live speaking events, to perform that song live and stuff of that nature, because he's doing legacy work. Because again, it starts with parents. If that don't show you nothing else, it shows you the love and the compassion and the unwillingness to stop and to continue fighting for his son. That's the formula. This is the recipe. If anybody ever asks me, Marcus, what did you do to start speaking? I had love, compassion, understanding, and people in my village that was willing to show patience. And they didn't stop. My sisters missed prom days. They miss going and having their lives. They miss buying weed and nails and stuff, normal stuff women do, because they want to sacrifice and they want to make sure every single day they work with me, that I wasn't going to be a loser, that I wasn't going to be a failure, that I wasn't going to be a statistic. I give my life to them.
That is amazing. And like I said, when he dropped that, when he sent me the song, he didn't even know me. He was like, I don't want to listen to the song. I said, okay, cool. I listened to it. I was like, oh, I was literally about to go live on a bedroom talk show. I had like 15 minutes. And I said, hold up. I'm gonna play that. And that was my whole month of April, my song. And whenever I do autism, whenever I do anything autism, I that's the song I play because I want people to listen to the message. And I agree, it does start with the parent. But the parent can't be in denial. It's okay to grieve whatever you need to do, but I feel like it had to be a deadline. I gave myself 2 days. I don't know if you can see my 2 days, and I was over it. Okay, like. But when I was grieving, I wasn't really sad. I was just like, okay, I finally had a black and white. I need to get it done. Like, and my son has delays here, 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 here. I need to figure this out. That was more of my grieving process. It wasn't like, oh my baby. I'm gonna make sure I clarify that just in case it's ever go viral. I never ever grieved him. I grieved the thought I had for my son, but I accept him for who he is. So, but did you have anything else to add to this dope episode? I want to say thank you for letting me interview you, and thank you for reaching out to me as well.
Again, I'm honored to be on your amazing platform, and I think what you're doing with your books, with
Thank
your
you.
talk show, with your podcast, I'm a fan, so I follow you, TikTok, all that.
Thank you.
Follow, follow.
Thank you.
I definitely,
I try.
I definitely got to give a really shout out to my village, my team. From Apostle Dorinda, Chief Apostle Dr. Arnold Burrell, Goldie Bishop, Kathy Taylor with Tell All Inc. in Atlanta, uh, Allison Sanders, Divine Network Solutions out there in Alabama, Miss Taylor and them, what they're doing for autism and with the programs they're offering in Alabama soon will hit the worldwide because it's a phenomenal situation. And
I can't wait till you
um,
tell me about it. Tell us
and
about them.
again, Divine
Tell us
Network
about them.
Solutions, what they're doing is teaching autism teenagers and young kids, girls and boys, the advocacy factor, teaching them IT skills, teaching them computer skills, teaching them, giving them trades and stuff of that nature, so where they don't have to work at a McDonald's or a Burger King because they're
You
giving
know
them
what?
real
We
job
gonna have to
training
know.
skills.
I'm gonna need that connect.
I can definitely connect
we
with Miss
we
Taylor
gonna
out
talk.
there in Birmingham, Alabama. And the resources and stuff they're doing for the young kids with autism is amazing. And again, if anybody don't get nothing from bedroom talk, please support this show. Please support Miss Crystal's movement. Everything that she's doing because she's making a step, she's making a foot, she's making a damage in this autism community. And not just because she's a mother, because she's an advocate herself. So we need all advocates to please stand up. Please let us know that you're here because the world of autism has to change and it starts with you.
Thank you. I love that. And I do feel like it starts with us. And people, I don't think parents realize how powerful they are. When I say how powerful parents are, I don't think people realize that. I'm going to say it one more time. I don't think people realize how powerful parents are. When I tell you, if your child is in therapy and you don't like the therapist, fire them, get a new therapist, figure it out because it's all about your child. If your child telling you, "Oh, I don't like this therapist," get a new therapist. I want to tell you, it all start with the parent. It start with the parent, but when it start with the parent have to have the knowledge. Unfortunately, because some parents will get played if they don't take the time to learn what autism is. I'm just gonna be honest and understand the ethics of these therapists because I'm actually low key going through something right now with some therapists, and ethically, they are not handling my son's case correctly, and ethically, I'm going to get them in trouble. But I can't say too much because I'm not sure if they watch this episode because they was on this podcast before. But anyway, um I do feel that it always starts with the parents, and I don't think people realize how deep it is. And like when I wrote my book and everything I have done for autism, it was just to educate the Black community. Besides the Black community, I wanted to educate minorities because I have noticed that the minority community tend to be least diagnosed. And when you say you was diagnosed at 10, that is still it proves my point that minorities are least diagnosed more than our white counterparts. Our white counterparts, they are diagnosed at 18 months. Our white counterparts, and I'm not being racist when I say that. I want to make sure I'm very clear on that when I say that. When they get diagnosed, they're getting diagnosed immediately. They're getting the resources immediately. Unfortunately, when it comes to minorities, not just Black community, not just us, we tend to get the diagnosis later. We tend to have not know resources. We tend not to know about groups. We tend not to know about support groups and how to get things, unfortunately, and it baffles me. And like when my son was diagnosed, quick story, I didn't know anything, but I learned so much. I said, and I did it. And then when I wrote my book, I wasn't trying to be an advocate. That's the funny part. I really wasn't. It just happened, and God told me, this is where I want you. And I said, okay, God. And at the time, I was not spiritual with God. I was into the universe and higher power because I was trying to find God and I was trying to figure some things out. But God told me, this is where I want you. This is your place. This is your niche. When I say niche, I mean, I'm really taking time to educate people. I talk to people all the time. Sometimes people call my other phone late to talk to me about their kids being diagnosed and they're sad. I'm like, why are you sad? And he's thought about resources since you're sad. So I just want to say thank you for being my platform. I really enjoyed you, and we're gonna have to connect more offline. We're gonna have to connect more. But I want to say this is the Bedroom Talk Show. I'm your host, Crystal J, and this was my dope guest, Marcus Boyd. And thank you so much for sharing your resources and sharing everything you have done for the community. And I want to say particularly the Black community, the Black autistic community. And when you drop that movie, please let me know, that short film, because I'm ready. But other than that, you guys, thank you guys for watching my talk show. Bye, you guys.
Shit, my thinking different. People wicked, they be calling you special. I call you gifted, won't forget it. My whole life changed after a visit. I was lost. The doctor said you're all